I feel like for the first time in 25 plus years, we have momentum. That's my perspective. I feel like we've got a lot of wind in our sails that we didn't have years ago. And so, what a great time to be in chiropractic, and what a great time to be a chiropractic student, and also to be revitalized if you're a veteran. Look, things are definitely going in our direction.
Well, hello, everybody. Dr. Ron Oberstein, president of Life Chiropractic College West, and welcome to another edition of our Life West Leadership Line. Today, we have my good friend, Brad Glowaki. Hey, Brad.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Great to see you, man. Always great to see you. Wherever we get to run into you somewhere in the world. We got Brad down for about 30 minutes. I got him nailed to a chair, and we're gonna have a great conversation. We're just sitting on the couch, just kind of talking, man. Tell you a little about Brad. If you don't know anything about Brad, then I've got to just call me because I got to get you updated because we got to get you something. Either your internet's broken or whatever. Because I tell
Oh,
you what,
geez.
he is the most traveled man that I know. I have to tell you this, Brad, that people used to say to me every time they call, they go, "What?" Their first line, "What part of the world are you in?" And
Right.
I go, "What?" I could say that about you right now. So
This is true. Yeah, and I've been saying lately, I said I think I'm number two only to Oberstein right now in
I
travel.
don't
It's
think
like
so.
you're on a quick flight to
I'm
Indiana
giving
for
you the
something.
belt, bro. You
All
got the
right.
belt. You wear it for a
Exactly.
while.
Thank you.
But let me tell you a little bit about Brad. Brad's a 98 grad from LACC. So he's been out for 26 years doing amazing things, been practicing in Seal Beach, has a booming practice in Seal Beach. Since that time that he got out, teaches all over the world. That's what we're talking about, traveling. He's got Level Up, a phenomenal program, New Patient Maven, all kinds of different things. He's just really built a phenomenal enterprise to help chiropractors reach more people. And that's the bottom line. It's really about the purpose of why he's doing it. Teaching in Australia, teaching in New Zealand, teaching and lecturing in Europe, in the States. I don't know, man. Africa, maybe coming soon. I don't know. But Iceland coming soon. We'll see if we
Coming
can get
soon.
over or
Yeah.
not. Anyways, but just doing amazing, amazing things and philanthropic. Brad gives to a lot of causes in chiropractic. He stays very quiet about it, but I know that he does because I've talked to him about it, and he gives a lot of money to chiropractic. And he's the type of person that understands that the hole that you give through is directly proportional to the hole that you receive through. So he gives a lot, and we in chiropractic are certainly blessed around that. Originally from Chicago. He's a Midwestern boy,
Mhm.
Chi-Town during those Michael Jordan days when the bad boys were kicking their butts.
Oh,
But then, because
jeez.
I'm from Detroit, but then he
I
took
know
it
it.
over after that. We won't talk about those six championship rings that
That's right.
came on the fingers and the Bears, of course. But he's
Right.
got a big, strong roots of being in Chicago and also went to Massachusetts, played rugby in college, and just an overall, probably one of the most nicest people you could ever meet. But I think his crowning glory is truly, the 25-year marriage to Jessica, his wife, and high school sweethearts, actually, and his four kids. I mean, he's got from Georgia, Luke, Hero, Sailor, go Sailor and then Hero,
Mhm.
ranging from the ages of 23 down to 16. So he's got his brood. Probably getting somewhere in the next 5 to 10 years off the payroll. That becomes a huge celebration, huge, huge these days.
Yeah.
But just he's got an amazing life, and he gives so much to chiropractic, and of course, to the world. So that's the best I can do for you, bro.
That was
Tell you
phenomenal.
what,
I was not going to cut you off, so
I know, I
I
know, I
appreciate it.
know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
know.
lots to be excited about and lots to be grateful for. It's everything really through the lens of chiropractic has kind of come back tenfold, and I think that's why it's fun to share with chiropractors too, is there's times we get beat up and you get knocked down, but the truth is it's such a great profession. It's worth, putting in the work and doing the hard yards because people need a second option to just medicine and just the pharmaceutical products that are out there. And what we're doing is raising our kids in that same model and same lens. And there's definitely been some challenges in the last few years, right? So just really kind of staying true to the principle of what chiropractic is, living it, and then sharing it with other people. It's been a lot of fun. So really warm intro. I thank you for that.
Yeah, man, and I have to tell you because when I look at some of the people that you've mentored, and people have just been tutelage and been around you, from the Ryan Zimmermans, who's a gem of a person,
For sure.
and David, who's in your office right now, who's just a wonderful Life West grad, a wonderful guy.
Mhm.
Just the people that you touch, and really, really, I think that's our legacy. Our legacy isn't so much, traveling and doing all this stuff, but the people that we touch intimately, that we make a difference in their lives, that they go out and spread the word, and are able to, just exponentiate the message of chiropractic. And you've touched a lot of people all over the world,
Oh, I
Big Ben in
appreciate it.
Ireland, and I can go on and name people, but it's just so cool. It's cool to see your impact and to see the reach that you have.
It's fun. And what's cool about it is like, reaching patients in practice and going hands-on. I love that. We still see people. I'm going to be ending this call and going to adjust this afternoon. So that's always fun. But then also reaching other chiropractors who reach other people. That's where that exponential piece comes in that you mentioned. So it's not just doing it in practice, but helping other chiropractors do it at a higher level, whatever that means. I always say it's you versus you. It's the new you versus the old you, not you versus another chiropractor. But just being better than you were last year and being better than you were a decade ago. And I don't plan to be the same chiropractor in 10 years I am now. I hope to improve. And I think for the listeners, that's important too. It's you versus you. It's an inside game.
Yeah.
And if you can find ways to improve your technique, your adjusting, your communication, your practice, then it's just one of these professions where it gets better year by year. And yet, I think there's some careers and professions out there that are being phased out, they're being obsolete, technology's taking over. There's a risk in their field, and that is not the case in chiropractic. In chiropractic, there's never been a better time to be a chiropractor, and it's only going to get better from here. I think with some of the landscape changing in healthcare, it's kind of like the pendulum swung really far in one direction, and now it's coming back the other way. I feel like for the first time in 25 plus years, we have momentum. That's my perspective. I feel like we've got a lot of wind in our sails that we didn't have years ago. And so, what a great time to be in chiropractic, and what a great time to be a chiropractic student, and also to be revitalized if you're a veteran. Look, things are definitely going in our direction. And so, hopefully, in this chat we have, we can inspire some people to get out there and just work at a little higher level. Again, you versus you. That's all it is.
Yeah, and the interesting thing too around it is that when you look at, like, the 2020, 2019, 2020, the whole thing that kind of shifted, right? Shifted our axis, right, for the world. It really propelled chiropractic. I
Yeah.
mean, it for us to get people to understand that health comes from within, in the inside, that your immune system is, from the inside, that nothing on the outside is going to change that, so to speak,
Yeah.
to make it stronger. And when you saw all the offices, I'm sure all the offices that you're around, they all took off during that time period, right?
Yeah.
People wanted care, and it's no different now, right? In
Yeah.
fact, it's just as important now as it was then, as it was 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think initially when all that stuff was going on, of course practices took a dip or a hit or it was uncharted waters. But this whole idea of what's normal, there is no normal. History is a study of abnormal events. And the reason history keeps being so interesting is there's more unusual events that are going to continue to go on. But what a principled chiropractor does, and I think what you do so well in these podcasts, is understand that if you know who you are and what you stand for, people can anchor it to that, and like BJ said, who can anchor to an unanchored mind? The concepts of what we provide and being principled means you know what health is, you stay to those definitions, and you pull people onto the definition of health that we have. You don't chase their definitions because people don't really know what health is. And kind of going to the core of what we talk about, it's seed versus soil, and germs don't make you sick. It's the cultural medium on which they fall. And so, therefore, looking at your own habits, your health, your routine, those are the most important factors, not what's out there, not the next germ. And so I agree. I think there's a nice echo going on off of this now where people are starting to repeat the things that we've been saying. And again, it's time that we have momentum. It's time we can start making a shift in generations, not just the patients that we touch, but the generations of people they bring up, their children and grandchildren could be changed as a result. So, really important time, I think, in chiropractic specifically because people are open to a new narrative. They've seen that there's been lies, distrust, misinformation, things that were labeled malinformation were just things that pharmaceutical companies didn't want people to know. So, I really think there's a thirst and a hunger for, hey, what is the truth? Where you're a natural health expert, explain this in your terms. And so people are coming in now with a higher level of questions And as you know, the quality of your questions equals the quality of your life. And if your patients are asking better questions, it's an opportunity to educate and really take patient communication to kind of a new heights.
Yeah, and when you just said that, the quality of your life is directly related to the quality of your questions, it's also related to the quality of the answers that people receive,
For
right?
sure.
Because you can ask the question and not get a good answer, and then you're still left with the question. And one of the things that I see, that I see, that I witness, I watch you with my three daughters, when they graduated school, the first place I sent them was go to Brad, just go do one of his programs, listen, sit in, see what's there, right? And
Which to this day is one of my greatest honors, to be honest. But, having you and Mary trust me to do that, like, I still love that fact. So thank you.
yeah, and I'll keep telling people about it because listen, to know how to articulate, people know the truth inside of themselves, right? Like
Mhm.
chiropractors, but to articulate it is another thing,
Yeah.
right? To have it come out so it makes sense and to who you're talking to and to have the communication skills that people can actually, it's not going to go to their left or go to their right or go above them, it'll actually go right to them, right?
Yeah.
Brad, one of the things you're doing that's phenomenal, obviously, because one of the key components, if I was someone that's asked me, well, what does Dr. Brad go out and do? And I just going to talk about education. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a master at educating and teaching chiropractors how to educate. You've got great systems and all these kinds of things, but all that adds to value. And then the
Mm.
value adds to whatever your price is and whatever else there might be. Let's talk about education because there's got
Mhm.
to, what are you seeing right now in all your travels? What are some of the holes that are out there or some of the disconnects that are out there that you're kind of witnessing or that you find yourself, being able to help people with, the solutions or patching them together?
Yeah, it's a great question. Look, the more I travel and look at where chiropractic is different, maybe on certain continents and countries. I go to Australia every 90 days. I go to Europe every 90 days and speak to chiropractic groups and we do workshops. And I always tell people where you live mentally is more important than where you live physically. It's not the zip code, the area code, the country, the province, the state that you're in. Rarely is it those factors that determines if a chiropractor is successful or not. It's where you live mentally. In other words, it's the mental real estate and how you tell yourself you operate. And just something we mentioned a minute ago, being principled, pulling people onto your definition of health, realizing they don't have strong definitions of health. They don't have healthy definitions of health, and they certainly don't have the full picture of health. So those three things really leaves them in a flexible position where if we can redefine it, refocus it, reframe it, then all of a sudden you can define health better for them and they're willing to do that. So, the more I travel, the more I think chiropractic is the same in other countries. I don't see the big differences anymore. I used to notice, well, these people can take x-rays and these people can't. The truth is, communication is really what it comes down to. We do have the best product in healthcare. We just need to communicate it better. And even things you were talking about, left brain, right brain, things going over people's heads. I like it simple. And analogies and metaphors actually create that synapse in the corpus callosum, connects left and right brain. Little phrases that, docs listen and can use in practice right away. One of my favorite two words is kinda like. It's kind of like when you go to the dentist. It's kind of like when you go work out. You're going to go 3 times a week to get a new physique. It's kind of like when they take braces off. What comes next? So, kind of like is a really easy way to make some big concepts tangible. It's really easy in a table talk situation where you don't want to spend a lot of time, but I can be impactful with the communication. It's kind of like this. And then people get it and they understand analogies and metaphors. And I think for chiropractors, they can do a great job educating when you go to places of familiarity and then you build a paradigm similar to what they know. You can change people's whole outlook on health. And it stays in agreement, which is really important. But yeah, just bringing it down. I think my superpower at that is just because maybe my IQ isn't super high. So I have a knack for speaking at people's level because I'm on the level, and it's like, it's just keeping it simple and keeping it tangible, and being approachable, I think is really where chiropractors need to go. It's such a cool concept. This thing called chiropractic, we don't need to complicate it. And
Yeah.
I think if you can explain it that way, people will get it.
Yeah, and you know what? And it hasn't changed. And I don't care
Right.
where we are in the world, right? It hasn't changed. Chiropractic is chiropractic. The communication of chiropractic is really what we went. The evolution of chiropractic,
Yeah.
as far as the knowledge of the brain based and those kind of things, right? But it's once again boiling it down to the simplest common denominator. I remember, Dr. Williams used to teach me, he used to say that, oh, an acorn to an oak tree takes time.
Yeah.
And I go, what? And then I'm in practice and people say, Doc, when? I go, an acorn to an oak tree takes time.
Yeah.
Whether they understood what I was saying or not, they got it somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Or they went and figured it out, or they I had to hear it a few times, right? That kind of a thing that just keeping it simple, but once again, it's who you're talking to. And the question I have for you is this, because obviously chiropractic stays the same, but the
Mhm.
research around it has been growing and all
Sure.
these things. When we start talking about educating patients, right? There's always cycles. And man, in my day, dude, you came to my office, when Mary and I were in San Diego, right? And we're seeing, whatever we're seeing, all the people that we're seeing. We built our practice on screenings.
Yeah.
There wasn't internet back then, right? So we
Right.
were out every freaking weekend doing spinal screenings at 10Ks and 5Ks. At San Diego, you can do it every weekend, right?
Yeah. Right.
We just took advantage of what of the avatar that was there. That was the group that we were looking to attract. And the incredible thing around that was the educational process that we did was different. And then all of a sudden, I watch now, and everyone's kind of trying to build their brand on Instagram and doing that, which is great.
Yeah.
I love watching them. I love watching. I love seeing that stuff. But it's like things go full circle.
Yeah.
Health talks, right? Think
Yeah.
about that, man.
Yeah.
I mean, what for me, every Wednesday night, it was like religion, unless it switched to Tuesday night,
You're
but
right.
it was every Wednesday night, whether there was one person, no people, or 50 people, right?
Right.
Always a health talk. What are you seeing? What's out
Yeah, I think that's coming back for sure. Health talks, people not being able to go live, go in person, people choosing to work from home. There seems to be a big call recently for people to all come back into the office, to get back into an office space. I get it because productivity, if you're home and in your pajamas and you haven't showered for the day, you kind of take on a different persona. But if you're dressed up and professional and you're in a work environment that's, inspiring, people do better work. So I'm seeing a huge influx of people going back into an office space or being mandated to do so. And we've also been doing health talks again. And you hit it right on the head. It is cyclical. Obviously, through lockdowns, that stuff wasn't happening at all. But if anybody's listening and looking for new patients, I think this is kind of an early adopter phase still post pandemic is to go back and do health talks. And again, it's kind of that medium between, doing spinal screenings or doing 90-second videos on Instagram or something where it's like, hey, look, you've got more than 90 seconds and it isn't as laborious as, spinal screenings. And we did a team event this weekend, the Seal Beach Car Show. But some of it's weather dependent. Some of it's the setup and the breakdown, and you got to be out there at 6 in the morning to get your booth going. And what I like about talks is you can be home for dinner.
there?
It's the middle of the day on a Wednesday, and I could be home for dinner. And it's like you could do them in the course of a 9 to 5 time frame. You have a collective audience, and with a collective audience, you've got their attention. And ultimately, that's what everybody's fighting for in a marketing space is attention. They hijack it sometimes on social media. They do the clickbait thing to get your attention, but it's almost like they're crashing into your peacefulness with their agenda, and that's not always appreciated.
Yeah,
So to do it with a permission marketing, which is where everything's going, we no longer live in just an opt-in world. We live in a cancel culture.
yeah,
So people don't like it. Not only do they just swipe on, they cancel you entirely. So yeah, I love health talks, man. We've been back doing those and crushing it with numbers and new patients. And it's a space where not a lot of people are back. Prior to the pandemic, we had medical doctors and weight loss centers and nurse practitioners and you name it. Everybody in healthcare was doing talks. It was pretty crowded
right.
as far as that space goes in California. Now it's a ghost town. So we go to companies and they haven't had a speaker in 5 years, which to me is great because then I look tall, dark, and handsome, which I'm not. I appear funnier, which is great because they haven't heard anybody. It's like I'm the first guest they've had in 5 years. So anything we do is welcome with open arms, and we have immediate traction with it because they just haven't had that. And so, I think talks are back. Screenings are good. It's laborious. It's time consuming. It's weather dependent. We had a rare case of rain this weekend, so that changed the numbers of people that were coming out in Southern California. So I really like this idea of talks. I like the idea of internal talks, doing them weekly. And your commitment to doing it, whether it's one person or nobody, is really what it takes.
Yeah,
So this idea of I'm going to do this, and a key phrase I would want everyone to write down if they're sitting at a desk is no matter what. No matter what. It lacks in our profession these days. I'm going to do this no matter what.
Right.
Everybody puts these contingencies like, I'll do this if there's X amount of people. I'll do that only if we can have this booth location. How about just try no matter what? Man, it is such a powerful phrase. I'm going to do this no matter what.
Right.
And the truth is, the reason we do our marketing and our outreach is not because we need new patients, it's because new patients need us. And I think if you're coming from that give, do, love, service standpoint, you know what I mean? Then ultimately people are going to get the message and it gets easier, not harder as time goes on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
It's
that's
kind
been,
of like
yeah, my guy, my
it's
guy.
kind of like going to the gym,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Like we don't always want to go, but
Right.
we go.
Mhm.
And you know, and when you go, when you leave, you're always happy
Yeah,
that you went. I don't know
that's
many
right.
people who don't want to go. They finally go and they go, why did I go? I mean, it's like you feel good because you
Yeah.
do something that you're disciplined in, you do something. And here's the thing, you know what patients are looking for? They're looking for people who are disciplined. They're looking for
Mhm.
people who own something. They're looking for people who are passionate, and they're
Mhm.
looking for someone who they trust. And I'm sorry, but you might be able to get one or two of those things on an Instagram reel or wherever else, but you will not get it like you do being live in front of somebody. And our audience could be thinking, yeah, but who would come? Well, every new patient
Yeah.
would come. It's like it's just part of the game. It's like why do they show up? Who's going to teach them about time, repetition, energy? Who's going to teach them about why chiropractic, about the nervous system controlling their body? I'm giving them the talk right now, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to teach them about bringing their families in and where it should start? Where it
Yeah.
should start from. A tree grows as straight as the twig, right? I mean, that kind of a thing. To get your message in a 20, 30-minute talk is nothing. But the biggest thing, man, they get to feel you.
Yeah.
And when they
And I was
feel
just going to
you,
say, did you find yourself more on fire on Thursdays when you would give your Wednesday night talks?
always.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you something. Every Wednesday night talk, I never really wanted to go out there and do it. It wasn't like the highlight, like it
Yeah.
wasn't. But afterwards, man,
Yeah.
it was like going to the gym. I
Totally.
like getting up at 5:30 in the morning to go to the gym, but I do it, right?
Right.
And so there wasn't many nights, where I just couldn't wait to get out there and do this talk.
Yeah.
That just wasn't me.
Yeah.
But I went out every time. I loved it. I fell in love with it, right? But it was something that was part of my routine that I did. But like you said, it wasn't for me. But the truth is, you know what? It really was. And I think
Yeah.
docs will find this. It really is for the doc because
Yeah.
it regrounded me every week on
For
why I
sure.
do what I do.
Yeah. And look, passion not expressed shrinks. So if you're a passionate person, you need to talk about it. You need to share chiropractic. It's really good for the practitioner. It solidifies and edifies some of your conviction. And I've always told chiropractors confidence equals competence in the mind of the patient. So I would want to go to a practitioner who's very confident because that tells me they're competent. The opposite is also true. If it's like, well, we'll give this a try and we'll hope for the best and we'll see how you feel. It's like not exactly the kind of care plan I want to sign up for. So, confidence is competence in the mind of the patient. So that perception is really important for the listeners. And then also something you mentioned, which is why I love our conversations and our chats, because they're just loaded with gold. And that is simply that trust is the currency of the future.
Yeah.
And the more trust you can build with your audience, which is why I like social media, you can build some early trust and get familiarity. But ultimately, the trust is what people will make decisions on. And you and I are old enough in practice where if somebody said something nice about us 20 years ago, well, then their friend would pick up the phone and make a new patient appointment. Now there's a step in between. Because trust isn't just given, now there's a step in between. And what they do is they check social media. So they hear good things, they check social media, then they make the phone call. And so, realizing these are some of the things that are at play, chiropractors need to get better in those departments. You need to deepen your belief in what it is you provide. You cannot sell what you don't own. You have to be confident in your messaging because that equals competence in the mind of the patient. And then also realize you're always building trust. So some things that I see as mistakes around the globe, and you wanted me to share some things globally. Chiropractors have a new patient come in and then they surprise them with a fee. And then they want to charge them for some x-rays. And then they want to do a test that they didn't describe at the spinal screening or it wasn't mentioned. Anytime you surprise a new patient, it's a breach of trust. And you cannot afford to do that in any profession, but certainly not in chiropractic. You need to be building trust, not breaking trust. And those little things are huge. And I'll even go so far. So that would be a negative thing to remove is no hidden fees ever with new patients or any patient really. Just remove that. Be as upfront as possible with any fees. And then kind of the good thing is like add service at a much higher level. So if somebody comes in and their name is William and that's your new patient, and your team takes him in and greets him and does a wonderful job, and they find out he wants to be called Bill, then it's really huge when the doc can walk in the room and go, "Hey, Bill, nice to meet you." Meaning, I got the memo from the front desk. You don't want to be called William. You want to be called Bill. The minute I go to shake Bill's hand, I go, "Hey, Bill, good to meet you." I got the message. That level of service has been lost, and I think for chiropractors going forwards, that would build trust, that would show competence. It also shows your team is cohesive. And those are huge things, I think, from an internal perspective as well, is just put your service on a different level.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you talk about service, right? We don't even ask people how they like to be served. So in other words, like communication,
Yeah.
first on the intake, it should be not from the doctor, but even from the front desk or even on a call, before they're coming in for their first visit. Would you rather be texted, emailed, have a phone call? What's your preference for
Mhm.
communication, right? And someone might say, "Oh, text." Perfect. That's all you
Yeah.
do is just text that person,
Yep.
right? It's like there's so much in this world right now that we have to kind of be able to adapt ourselves to how people communicate, right? And that's part of our communication style. I want to break into something though, because
Yeah.
something's coming up down the pike, and it's going to be hitting us before we know it. I mean, really, before we know it. With AI happening right now, I mean, my God, I can pick my phone up right now and I can just go on Chat GPT or Claude and say, write me a letter to so and so expressing this, and it already knows how I write. It already knows my words. It already knows that stuff, right? Because it's been working with me on that. But I'll tell you what's going to start happening now. When you're going to pick up your phone, and you're going to say, "Order me a pizza with pepperoni and yada yada," and I want it as quick as I can. And you're not going to even know where it's going to come from. Unless you say, "I want it from Little Caesars," or "I want it from Domino's," or "I want it from wherever." It's just going to find the closest place. It's going to find the one that's going to be the fastest. It's going to be the same thing for chiropractic. It's going to say, "Hey, I'm looking for a chiropractor in this zip code." And you know what it's going to be? It's going to, and someone like this or someone, whatever it's going to be, and they're going to right away be able to say, uh, Glowaki Chiropractic in Seal Beach. Here's the address. Made you an appointment. You're scheduled at 4 o'clock.
Yep.
That's literally what's going to be taking place. So the game is now going to be not just the pay to play is not going to be about paying for your ads. It's about having your name come up on the top of the list, right?
Right.
So that you're getting people. And as we move into that, man, I got to tell you, I don't want to fight that game. That ain't a game I want to play. You
Right.
know, I'd rather have people in front of me referring their families,
Yeah.
spreading the word for me.
Yep.
We're going to get good people that way, right?
Yeah, totally. And look, for your listeners, there's kind of three variations of talks that I teach, and this works around the world. One is 10-minute talks. I invented that
Yeah.
20 years ago within the profession, and I had my haters, people going, "There's nothing you could teach them, and what are you going to do in 10 minutes?" My whole point in a 10-minute talk is to invite them into the practice. And I say that. I go, "Look, I don't have all the time in the world, so let's do the next best thing. Why don't we invite you in for an individualized, customized, personalized evaluation and examination. Anything that's individual or custom or specific to you, people love that stuff, right? So I use time to my advantage. Number two is a traditional lunch and learn. It's 30, 40 minutes. You kind of can't go past 40 minutes because then you lose time to sign people up as new patients. And we certainly do that right in the room. And then the third variety for people to consider really is internal, inside your practice. And I think you can do those in 45 to 55 minutes. So if it's an internal event, and we do this once a quarter, we don't do it every month, but we host a topic and a theme, and we do an internal event, but you can speak a little bit longer if it's in the confines of your four walls. But there is no excuse at this point to not be doing talks. It's a collective audience. You're not going to be filtered through chat. You're not going to have, for a long time, if you started typing in the word chiropractic in Google, the next word that would pop up would be theory. The next word that would populate would be witchcraft. The next thing would be non-scientific, it would be chiropractic, and then Google would fill in all these other words. It wasn't good, so to leave things to chance, I think with technology hasn't yet proven to be beneficial for chiropractic on the whole. I think we'll get there, but it hasn't yet. And so, for the chiropractors listening that like to take matters into their own hands and have some control over your life, do some talks. Get out there where it's one on many. And the difference is one on one would be a screening. It's okay, but it's limited. One on many, you can pull in boatloads of new patients and you can pre educate and pre qualify them. And here's a suggestion for your listeners. Something I would say to do is called candor. What candor is at my talks, I'll always mention what I'm not good at first. And maybe it's my Midwest upbringing, but to be humble is just kind of second nature. It's like, oh, I'm not good at, fibromyalgia. So if you have that, just I'm not the office for you. I always mention one thing that I'm not good at. And then anything I say after that holds so much more weight, has so much more merit because you've humbled yourself first. And we talked about social media. Look, we live in a world of superlatives, edited videos, everything's perfect. When I can say I'm not good at this, if you have it, don't come in. Then anything else I say has more authenticity, it's honest, and it holds a whole lot more merit. So for anybody listening, doing talks that you're already doing them, find it in your heart to just mention a thing. Hey, if you have plantar fasciitis, we don't do feet, so don't come in. However, if you're pregnant or if you want to have a natural childbirth or if neck pain, back pain, sciatica, you fill in the blanks, but you'll get more of what you want if you use candor. First, humble yourself. Second, tell people what you're good at. And I've always maintained the tongue is the rudder. The tongue is the rudder to your ship. What rolls off your tongue is more of what you'll have in your practice. So if you don't want neck and back pain, well, then don't talk about it because you're advertising, right? So, just being that big antenna and putting that out there, I think is a huge advantage for talks.
Yeah, or say that, right? I'm
Yeah.
not the guy.
Mhm.
I'm not the you got low back pain. I'm not the guy. Listen, I
No.
used to tell people I wouldn't see me for low back pain. That's not
Right.
who I would see. I
Yeah.
mean, other people I would see, and I can refer
Yeah.
you to someone. But you want to bring your children in. You want to come in for optimal, function. You want to difficult things, whatever it might be. I'm your guy, right?
That's it.
I
That's it.
love it. Candor is beautiful, man.
Yeah, and
Oh,
just being humble, just because we do
be
live in a world
truthful.
of superlatives, and if so the sequencing is important too. You can't do that second. You have to do that first. You go, hey, look, I'm just not good at this. And they go, well, now you've piqued my curiosity. What are you good at? And then it just holds more merit because you've just been honest and upfront with people, and then it just gets you so much further. Then kind of the paradigms of healthcare too. The way I see it, I always tell people at talks, chiropractic's good for pain, it's good for prevention, it's good for performance. And I went to a state school, University of Delaware. I can remember three things. You give me a fourth and I'll remember nothing, right? So if it's three things, I can remember it, right? And I think your audiences too. Keep it simple. Keep it simple as to what you do. We do pain, we do prevention, we do performance. Well, pretty much that's everybody on planet Earth. It could be a mom expecting to deliver a baby. That's a big performance called childbirth, right? Prevention, you talk to the athletes, they don't want to miss practice, they don't want to miss a game because someone will fill their spot. And of course, we know from the Adams study, like 90% of new patients are neck and back pain. Nothing against it. It gets people started. So I'm not telling people how to practice. It's just message it so you get more of what you want.
Yeah,
Because the truth is, most people don't have a chiropractic appointment, and that's what we're trying to change.
right. And be clear on your avatar or
Yeah,
avatars, right?
that's
I
right.
love it, man. I love it.
Yeah,
Well, I want to go into one last thing, and then
yeah, cool.
we're gonna kind of get off the couch, so to speak. I think mindset is a huge thing,
Mhm.
Brad, and I just I want to bring this out for our audience to understand that whatever they want, if you put your mind to it, you can really see it here. They can have it. And for instance, you've got a bi-coastal family right now, right?
Yep.
California, that's been your home, right? Practice is there, right? And yet you've got your youngest son is in a very high level athletic program in Florida, right?
Yep.
And so you got a home in Florida now. So you're kind
Yep.
of bi-coastal and your wife is in Florida, right? And I know you guys are together a lot, but you make it work.
Mhm.
And I think that people don't understand that we can make anything work
That's right.
if we just have the vision, to make it work. And then vision without any application is just a hallucination.
Yeah.
So having the vision, having the application to make work, how do you keep a balance with all the traveling you're doing, practicing, family bi-coastal, kids in different places. I think you got a daughter at Mississippi, right? A sailor at
Hmm.
Mississippi you,
Yep.
you, you miss?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So there's at Ole Miss, and
Ole
Luke's
Miss, go
up
blindside,
on
baby, right?
Boise. Yeah, Georgia won a national championship at University of Tampa playing lacrosse, and
Yep.
so
And
and
Luke's
look,
where? Luke's in Boise?
he's in Boise, and I don't think he's ever coming home. He's working on a dude ranch this summer, so he's just gonna be riding horses and taking people to fishing holes. Like, yeah, he's got life sorted out. You know, a lot of people work their whole life to get to do that. He's like, I'm gonna do that first. So,
I love it.
yeah, it's just, and I think what chiropractic can do for a lot of people is be a genie in a bottle. And like any genie, you rub it and you get to make your wishes. You just got to have clarity, and what is it that you want? And the truth is, Hero going to school in Florida was 100% his idea. He came into our bedroom one night and said, Mom and Dad, you always told us to listen to that little voice, that innate intelligence, right? Yeah, good for you. Like, we look at each other like, right on. He's like, well, my voice has been talking. And Jessica and I look like, sweet, cool. What's it been saying? He's like, well, the voice in my head said, I need to go to IMG Academy for high school in Florida. And I was like, yeah, is it saying anything else? Is it saying
We
like
haven't heard it.
I'll clean up my room? Like, like what else is going on up there, dude? And he's like, no, I've been thinking a lot about it. That's what my voice is telling me. So, we like, all right, we'll see how this goes and see if he brings it up in the morning. And long story short, he just was on it, and he was just not going to be pulled off his mission, his purpose. In other words, he's a principled lacrosse player.
Yeah.
Right. And so he pulled us onto his idea. So we did. We bought a place, shipped him out to a summer camp to see how it would go, and basically rerouted everything in our lives because that's his dream. That's what he wants to do. He's our youngest. And we would do it for any of our kids. It's like, okay, if you have clarity, let's go get it. Let's friggin' do this. Let's double down and bet on you. And I want that as a message for every chiropractor. Like, double down and bet on yourself. Get clear on your vision. Understand you hold the genie in a bottle called chiropractic. And when you rub it and the genie pops out, what do you want? Don't stutter, don't stammer, don't have a lack of clarity. Like, when the genie comes out, what do you want? And I want to be one of the first people to say, you can have it. Because this profession has blown my friggin' mind at the gifts and treasures we get, at the opportunities we have. I always say money gives you options. We have a lot of options. If you do chiropractic right, it will be really good to you. So work on the headspace, work on the clarity. And there is pain when you run a practice or if you're an associate in a practice. And the pain is this: it's either the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Either you get up at 5:30 like you said you do, and you do it whether you want to or not. That's the pain of discipline. It doesn't always feel good to get up then, but it's the right thing to do. Or unfortunately, we have a lot of chiropractors that are unprincipled, that are chasing the dollar, and they have the pain of regret. And the truth is, money's never a cause, it's always the effect. So get clear on your cause, and you can live a principled lifestyle on and off the chiropractic table. And to me, I think that's what it comes down to, is just total clarity, and then back that up with certainty and build trust with your patients. And that's all the things that Life West has been doing with their graduates. It's all the things your professors provide on campus, and everybody at Life West. I'm super impressed. The board of directors, it's like, it's a really cohesive team that has set out to change the world, and you're doing it. And you're genuinely doing it. So just keep it up, and the people there, it is a legacy. It's really cool to see the graduates coming out of Life West, and it's definitely going to be a group of world changers. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's about. And
Yeah.
hey, let's just drop the bomb.
Drop it.
Boom.
That's it.
Boom.
Yeah, but
I love
listen,
you,
I,
brother.
I I love doing this stuff. I really appreciate what you and Mary have put out through these podcasts. Your time at Life West is no small thing, and I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, you are the personification of what a chiropractor is. When somebody says, what is chiropractic? I would say it's Ron Oberstein. Like, between the Wednesday night classes, over 1,000 a week, practicing with his spouse, raising chiropractic children, doing it in the paradigm, stepping up, like all the things that you've done. I just want to give you a little accolades because you put the spotlight on others. But the truth is, if I had to pick somebody and say, who's the personification? Like, what is it that goes in the dictionary? It's Ron Oberstein unequivocally. So thank you for being a dear friend and for doing it the right way. You've been such an inspiration for so many people, and certainly myself. I mean, I've been an on fire chiropractor for 28 years because I met you when I was 1 year in school, and that's been like a true North Star for me. So you affected many of us in many different ways. You probably didn't even know that. So thank you, buddy.
My pleasure, my honor, and thank you for those kind words. And
Mhm.
I think we're just going to leave it right there because
Yeah.
that was a great outro. But no, Brad, it's been my pleasure, and I will continue to take chiropractic to the mountaintop and in different ways.
I
But
know you will.
and make chiropractic is what we do, right?
That's
It's
right.
what we do. It's not who we
That's right.
are. It's what we do,
That's it.
and it's such a beautiful profession. So, man, I'm blessed to have you. It makes me know that the future is going to be really, really bright. And to our viewers, thank you. And week in and week out, man, you keep coming back and you keep listening to this. Our viewership keeps growing. This is our Life West leadership line. Every other week, we drop the Life by Life West with myself and my wife. And I know you watch them both, but there are people who need to hear what Dr. Brad said today.
Mhm.
And there's people out there in your world who are struggling, and it's not to help them. Ultimately, is to help the people that they can serve so that we can reach more people with chiropractic and create a healthier world, right? A saner, healthier world. So there'll be some stuff down in the description on how to get a hold of Dr. Brad, his website, stuff like that, if you're inclined to do so. But mostly just keep spreading this around and let people know the gems that are here and the bombs that Dr. Brad just laid on us today. And as I always say, keep hugging those around you, and keep your love for what you do, keep your family first, and always, always know that you're far greater than you were ever led to believe, and that greatness is within you. And our job is just to keep nourishing that greatness so that we can reach whatever that potential is. So until I come back at you next week with a Life by Life West, for Dr. Brad, myself, we'll bid you adieu, and see you next time. Bye bye.